Okay, cool. Hey, Doc, how are you?
Yeah, well.
That's good. Let's start with Erin. Is she going to play?
We're not sure yet, to be honest. We've got training tonight, so with the Sunday game, our training week sort of just gets shunted back a little bit. So training tonight, and then we'll pick the squad after that.
Do you think a reasonable chance, or still too early to say?
Yeah, she's scheduled to train, so it'll just depend on how she goes in training. So she's training. Sure. A reasonable chance. That was your language? Yes, a reasonable chance.
That was. How about Chelsea?
Yeah, similar. So once again, she's in exactly the same boat. We'll have train tonight. It's not a ridiculous session, but there's just a little bit in it. And so then post that, if everyone gets through, then they'll play, and as long as they're feeling well. If not, then we'll obviously someone else will.
Given the position you find yourself in from a wins-loss perspective, is there a thought to sort of be cautious with some of your key players on their way back, given that finals are just around the corner?
No, I think we've been pretty cautious already, and this game, our last home game, really significant in terms of up against top six side, the chance to keep ourselves up at the pointy end. So there's a fair bit on this one, and there's no real thought of managing anybody. We just want to play.
Sure. Given you beat one of the flag fancies last week, do we expect many changes this week?
No, it was a really strong performance. So everyone that played really well, played their role. We do have great SANFL form. So if there's change, we're comfortable that the people coming in will be ready to go as well. But yeah, it was certainly a really good performance. So we're happy with the squad that played last week, definitely.
If we're being picky at all, is finishing or converting an issue still? Maybe one of the only down parts of the win over Freo?
No, I wouldn't say that's being picky. I'd say that's being fairly accurate. Clearly the last two games in particular, our conversion hasn't been what we would want. But equally, we've won those two games, and so in the end, I'm pretty comfortable every time we notch a W. So it's something we are putting some time into, but ultimately, sometimes those misses are as a result of pressure. I thought in particular, Fremantle's pressure, was outstanding throughout, and it probably wasn't. Even in the third quarter, we were dominating position, dominating territory. But, we weren't getting a lot of space with that. So it was probably only in the last where we actually were able to open it up a little bit. So sometimes the pressure's really high.
Do you feel like you're the team to beat now? And if so, is that a title that you're happy to own?
No, I think the top six have sort of separated themselves a bit. And on any given day, I think anyone in that group is certainly capable of beating anyone else. And then obviously we got, we're beaten by the Bulldogs recently. Gold Coast have also had, some really strong performances throughout the season. So, obviously after this week, the probability is that we'll have a pretty good sense of the final six. There still are some mathematical possibilities beyond that, but yeah, I think anyone in that finals bracket is well and truly in contention.
Great, thanks, Doc.
No worries.
All right, Liz, from the Tizer, please.
Thanks, Danny. Hi, Doc. From me, if we can talk about Ebony Maranov, has the group spent much time this week reflecting on her soon-to-be 50th game, and what does that mean to you and the club?
Yeah, I mean, she's a trailblazer in the competition. Her work rate is phenomenal. She's been able to just consistently train and therefore consistently play across the entire duration of the competition as it's existed. So to reach the milestone of 50 matches, when you consider the brevity of the seasons, in particular the early seasons, really short windows to rack up some games. Yeah, it's a significant milestone. So we're really pleased for her. Our media department was good enough to put together a short video highlighting some of her phenomenal performances over the journey, and we had a quick look at that on Wednesday, and acknowledged the achievement. And now I think for her and for the whole group, very much we want to focus back into playing the game and obviously trying to get an outcome. But after the game, there will definitely be an opportunity to acknowledge and to celebrate what is a really really significant milestone for our club and for the competition.
And after, I think it will only be another 2 more weeks, and you'll have players like Sarah Allen celebrating her. I think Stevie Lee Thompson maybe as well, celebrating her 50th as well. So how do you how do you make them feel special as well, I suppose?
It'll be equally as good an achievement. Obviously the benchmarks are slightly different in AFLW in contrast to AFL, but just because of, as we've already highlighted, the length of the seasons. But the reality is they've played, for most of those girls that you're mentioning, they've played pretty much continuously for 6 years and haven't missed much footy at all. So, when those milestones roll around, we'll celebrate those just as hard, because it's worthy of acknowledgement, and they're just such integral parts of our program. So we want to celebrate their achievement.
Just back onto Noffy, what do you love about coaching her specifically? And do you have maybe a favourite story of Noffy that you'd like to share?
What do I love coaching with Noffy? Well, it's unconditional effort. That it doesn't matter what the session is. It doesn't matter where in the pre-season or the season. She's got one gear and it's flat out. So as a coach, knowing that you're going to get that regardless of the scenario is a nice place to start from. And then I think the other piece, which I really have enjoyed, is that her thirst to get better, her desire to improve herself as a player matches that work ethic. So she's always looking to extend herself, and she's working on all of the elements of her game. And the amazing thing is she actually does have a number of things she needs to continue to get better at, and yet she's still a phenomenal performer. So I think she's had 3 bounces this season. So she hadn't had any up until this season. So she's working on that as well.
Is that actually true?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow, there you go. I hadn't noticed that. So hopefully we'll see some bounces from her on Sunday against Collingwood. Going into this game against Collingwood, obviously they're down lots of their key players, and today they've announced Alicia Newman's not going to be playing either. She's fallen under the concussion protocols. But how do you take on this game with, I suppose, top spot on the line as well, with a Collingwood team that might be a bit down on talent?
Yeah, obviously they've had to do without Bree since the start of the season, and then Benici going down last week was really obviously enormously disappointing for the competition. But if you look at their form line, their last 2 weeks they've really got themselves going again. They probably had a little patch there where they probably weren't playing their best footy, but their last fortnight is really strong, and that included obviously the game without Bree and then with Benici going down as well. So the reality is that their best footy has been in the last fortnight, and we're getting them on the upswing. So there's no doubt that they've got talent across the park, and they demonstrated last year that they were right amongst it when the whips were cracking. So I don't think there's any real issue in terms of us needing to be at our best. It's going to be another great game where we're playing against another finals aspirant. So yeah, I don't see any real drama there.
Excellent. Thanks, Doc. I'll pass over.
Thank you.
We've got Channel 7 now, Lucas. No, still not in.
They're on the record. That's all good.
Sorry, we've got a few tech issues here. Thanks, Maddie.
That's all right.
Yeah, just on Ebony, touched on making that video for her. What was her reaction to that?
Yeah, no, I think she's also aware that it's significant what she's achieved already, and no doubt she's going to enjoy celebrating that with her family and obviously with her teammates. So she was, I think, hopefully appreciative of the effort that the media team put in to put it together. But ultimately, yeah, it's going to, as I highlighted earlier, she's pretty unconditional in terms of effort and preparation and just putting herself on the line. So this is a nice moment, but I don't see it impacting the way that she's going to go about it in this game, in any game, to be honest. But it is, as we've highlighted, it's significant. So we're excited for her, and we're excited for the group that we're getting to that point where players are achieving these types of milestones.
And prior to the Freo game, with the sort of the makeup of the ladder leading to that, you two were 1 and 2 for a while, so that sort of felt like everything was leading up to that game. Now that you've passed it and collected the points, how do you make sure that you're still as motivated off the back of that game, and that this isn't sort of a banana skin?
Well, there's another 1 and 2. There's always a 1 and 2 in the competition, and therefore. But as I said, to my mind, we won that game, but Fremantle will come back into the contention, and they'll be stronger again. If I look across the top, as I say, as it sits at the moment, the top 6, potentially stretch it out to 7. Any team on any of those teams would consider themselves viable in terms of winning on any given day, and that includes finals when we get to them. So, in terms of slip-ups, it's not. I wouldn't view it as a slip-up if we come up against Collingwood and they were absolutely at their best and got the better of it. So it'd be as you'd expect it when you get finals-bound sides, clashing.
That's all from me. Thanks, Doug.
No.
Danny?
Hey Doc, how you going?
Good.
That's good. I know we've spoken about Ebony a lot already, for good reason, but I'm wondering if you're aware of any pre-game things that might be happening for her, whether cheer squads are doing anything or you guys are putting on anything for her?
I don't know about pre-game. I know that there are some club-based initiatives to acknowledge, the performance in terms of the presentation of some plaques to signify that, and there may well be banners, but I don't hold me to that because I'm not actually aware. But yeah, so not my area, to be honest. But I know the club, is really wants to make sure that we recognise the achievements. So all of the initiatives that are in place will be directed towards that.
Fantastic. And what do you think will be your biggest challenge facing Collingwood this weekend?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, as I said, they've really got themselves going over the last fortnight, and particularly last weekend, they sort of had some real drive and attacking flair in their game, and so I'd imagine it's going to be an up-tempo, high-paced game, and that they'll be trying to come back through corridor and to take us on. Their defenders are very proactive. They get out in front and they attack the game. So we need to make sure that that when we're going forward, we're using the ball effectively and efficiently, because otherwise they'll certainly rebound on you. And then at either end, obviously through the middle, they have had some players come out of the side, but they're still a really strong midfield group. And one of the things that they highlighted coming into the season was a desire to broaden that base of midfielders that they've got access to, and so they've been doing that throughout the season. And then Malloy forward of the ball is always a threat, so we need to. She's playing sort of mid forward a bit at the moment, so that's clearly a player that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, for sure. And the Pies are coming off their biggest score for the season, so you're expecting a bit of a challenge for your backline as well?
No, that's right. Yeah, and I think a lot of that scoring. Obviously, their forwards were in good nick, but it was probably a product of the way that they moved the ball. So, Frederick came back into the team and kicked goals early in the season. She was having a tougher time, but the ball movement probably wasn't allowing her to show her talents. So, they got themselves going, and our challenge will be to slow them down and not allow that to happen.
Yeah, Jamie Lambert's quite a standout in their midfield as well. Do you expect to put a bit of extra attention with her, or? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, her numbers are through the roof. She kicked 3 goals last week, so we'll be making sure that we're well aware of what she can do and trying to negate that. But on the flip side, trying to attack the other way as well. Often putting the focus into an opponent defensively is really important, but also you want to make sure that you're challenging them when we've got the ball.
Yeah, and do you expect any of the same attention for any of your mids?
I'd reckon.
Good call.
I'll be trying to shut them down, absolutely.
for sure. And lastly, I saw that Ange Foley's back in the SANFLW this weekend. First time since doing her knee in the grand final. How has she progressed, and has she been involved with training at the club?
Yeah, her rehab has been phenomenal, to be honest. And yeah, it was a really challenging situation earlier in the season where we had to decide around replacement player, and she was viable. Although there was some technicalities with the rules whereby she'd been made inactive because of the ACL. And then obviously when the season got pushed back by the month as it did, it sort of changed the scenario. In the end, we sort of decided that while there was a small window that she may get back and be available, the priority was really to keep her fit, healthy, and available long term. And so we just we went another way in that regard. But the reality is that she has been unbelievable in terms of her rehab. So she's probably been ready to play for a little while, and it's kind of just been, getting to a point where it's actually she's just thinking it's time to play. She's sick of waiting. So we're really confident. Obviously, it'll be challenging when you've been out for that period of time, but for her and for our club, it's enormously exciting to see her back out there and charging around. And to be honest, her speed and her movement has never looked better. So she's ready to go.
So when you say she's been inactive on your list, does that mean she can't come out to train with you guys and stuff, or how does that work?
No, she's been able to be involved. She's just not able to play, and she's got a role on game day with us on the bench. So she's been bench coach for the whole season. Other than last week, she had to stay home. But so she's highly involved, and it's been an asset for our group clearly. But the vast majority of that time has been focused on her rehab clearly, and it's probably only been the last. It's probably been the last 5 or 6 weeks where she's been able to get involved in some footy drills, and now she's ready to play, which is exciting.
Oh, so good. Thanks for that.
No worries.